Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. First, the headlines. The Sultanate condemns the bombing of the Omani ambassador's house in Sana'a, which is a clear violation of international norms and charters. Aircraft from Saudi-led coalition attacked Yemen's interior ministry in the capital, Sana'a. And Japan's parliament votes into law of a defense policy shift that could let troops fight overseas for the first time. Those are the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent cable of condolences to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, member of the United Arab Emirates Supreme Council, ruler of Dubai, on the death of his son, Sheikh Rashid bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. With deep regret, the Sultanate of Oman received the news of bombing the house of the Omani ambassador in Sana'a, which is a clear violation of international norms and charters that emphasize the inviolable of diplomatic premises. In a statement issued by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Sultanate requests the United Nations to take all measures to ensure an end to the current war in Yemen before it poses a serious threat to the security of the region. The Sultanate urges Yemeni parties to put aside the differences between them to ensure the return of stability and security to Yemen. Aircraft from a Saudi-led coalition attacked Yemen's interior ministry in the capital Sana'a late on Friday and launched several other raids on sites in the heart of the city. The air raids by the coalition have intensified in recent weeks as an Arab-led force and fighters loyal to exiled President Abdul Rabbu Mansour Hadi prepare a campaign to recapture Sana'a, seized by Houthi fighters in September 2014. The raids also targeted the presidential complex and a party building of former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, which had already been destroyed in 2011. In Saada province, about 30 people were killed in various strikes today. Israeli Air Force jets bombed targets in the northern Gaza Strip this morning following rocket fire at cities in southern Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces say the planes struck 3 targets in the northern Gaza Strip belonging to Hamas. Earlier, the Israeli Navy reportedly fired on target in Gaza. The reported strikes came shortly after Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system intercepted a rocket fired at the southern city of Ashkelon last night, hours after similar attacks saw a rocket strike in a residential area of Sderot. Israeli police said that a bus and a home were damaged in the strike. The residents were inside at the time of the strike and they were treated at the scene of shock. Japan's parliament voted into law of a defense policy shift that could let troops fight overseas for the first time since 1945, a milestone in Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's push to loosen the limits of the pacifist constitution on the military. Abe says the shift, the biggest change in Japan's defense policy since the creation of its post-war military in 1954, is vital to meet new challenges. But the legislation has sparked massive protests from ordinary citizens and others who say it violates the pacifist constitution. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has sworn in a new government 1 week after previous cabinets resigned amid a corruption probe. The new government, headed by former Petroleum Minister Sharif Ismail, followed weeks of heavy criticism of the predecessor Ibrahim Mahleb. The prosecutors began investigating several officials of allegedly receiving over $1 million in bribes. A number of pilgrims who came from abroad for this year's Hajj season since the start of arrivals until yesterday reached more than 1.3 million pilgrims, according to the Saudi press agency. The entry of total pilgrims is by 21,412 for the same period last year at a rate of 2%. Still to come in News Bulletin. Honoring ceremony of the Holy Quran competition is held in the Wilayat of Sohar. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. The total assets of conventional commercial banks increased by 15.6% to 28.1 billion Omani Riyals in July 2015 from 24.3 billion Omani Riyals a year ago. Of the total assets, credit disbursements accounted for 63.7% and increased by 99.2% at the end of July 2015 to 17.9 billion Omani Riyals. Credit to the private sector increased by 9.3% to reach 15.7 billion Omani Riyals. As at the end of July 2015, of the total credit to the private sector by July 2015, the share of the non-financial corporate sector stood at 47.4%, closely followed by the household sector, mainly under personal loans at 44.9%, financial corporations at 5.1%, and other sectors the remaining 2.6%. The Sultan's Pavilion in Expo Milano 2015 reached 3 million visitors to the pavilion, achieving a record on the level of Expo pavilions that the Sultan took part during previous years. The Sultan's Pavilion consists of 4 sections, showcasing the past and civilizational and characteristics, as well as the Sultan's progress and touristic development. Aiming to achieve competitiveness in memorizing the Holy Quran and learning its recitation, a ceremony was held at the stage of Omani Women Association in the Wilayat of Sohar to honor the winners of the Holy Quran competition. The ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Sheikh Khalid bin Umar Al Marhoon, Minister of Civil Service. Now for the general weather forecast, cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas and the nearby mountains of the Governorate of Dhofar, with chances of intermittent drizzle, and rest of the Sultanate will have clear to partly cloudy skies with chances of scattered rainfalls over the Hajar Mountains and the nearby areas. Winds will be southwesterly active along the coast of the Arabian Sea, while it will be southeasterly light to moderate along the rest of the Sultanate, and seas along the coast of the Arabian Sea will be rough with a maximum wave height of 4 meters, and rest of the coast it will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. This is the Sultan of Oman television. Before we enter tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Sultan condemns the bombing of the Omani ambassador's house in Sana'a, which is a clear violation of international norms and charters. Aircraft from Saudi-led coalition attack Yemen's interior ministry in the capital, Sana'a. And Japan's parliament votes into law of defense policy shift that could let troops fight overseas for the first time. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here in the newsroom and the studios, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Good night.